Society loves a rock. We highly reward people who appear perfectly composed while navigating relentless daily chaos. We call it professionalism. We call it having a strong outer personality. But behind that polished, unbothered exterior, human beings operate as continuous, invisible shock absorbers. We take the hits quietly so the surface doesn't crack. Think about the inputs you passively soak up on an average Tuesday. The tension in a morning meeting, a passive-aggressive email, the anxiety of the evening news. You absorb it all without even trying. The danger here is that this absorption is completely invisible. This diagram shows a cross-section of emotional capacity. Because the external gauge always reads as normal, you and everyone around you falsely assume your internal storage is limitless. But physical saturation is an absolute law. Whether a material is organic or synthetic, nothing can absorb indefinitely. Eventually, the empty volume runs out. When you trap that much emotional stress inside, your internal structure physically reacts. It swells. The pressure pushes outward against the walls of your mind, dangerously distorting your baseline psychology. If you ignore that internal pressure, the system doesn't gracefully wind down. It heads straight for a sudden, catastrophic structural break. Maintaining a pristine outer facade while secretly hoarding daily stress is not a display of mental toughness. It is a mathematical countdown to system failure. To understand exactly why this breaks the mind down, picture a highly porous material sitting in a pool of dense, heavy liquid. That emotional weight does not sit quietly once absorbed. This animated diagram shows a healthy neural network. Watch how the expanding emotional weight actively blocks and chokes off your standard psychological pathways. This chart shows the exact consequence of that physical distortion. As the volume of internal swelling increases, your intellectual efficiency drops. The heavier the mind gets, the slower it processes information. Psychologists call this the cognitive toll. This pie chart illustrates resource allocation under heavy stress. Notice how 90% of your energy goes strictly to load-bearing. That leaves almost no RAM, the short-term memory your brain uses to handle immediate tasks, available for critical thinking, creativity, or basic joy. The core error we make in maintaining our mental health is treating our minds like infinite landfills, rather than temporary filters. True emotional resilience has nothing to do with the volume of weight you can carry. It is measured by your ability to recognize exactly when your system is too bogged down to function. Look at the physical tools we use to clean up messes in the real world. A mop, an industrial sponge. Their defining feature is their disposability. You wring them out or you throw them in the trash. Yet, we completely ignore this basic physical logic when it comes to our own psychology. We absorb anger, frustration, and anxiety, and then we decide to keep them. By holding on to that absorbed waste, you take a temporary situational annoyance, a bad commute, a harsh comment, and permanently install it as chronic psychological heaviness. Hitting your maximum capacity is not a moral failing or a sign of weakness. It is a routine engineering alert signaling that your system requires an immediate purge. Hoarding emotional waste and calling yourself stoic offers zero real-world benefit. It simply rots your intellect from the inside out. The solution is a framework called disposable architecture. Emotion comes in as input, runs through a filter, and is deliberately discarded as output, allowing a system refresh. You must stop asking, "How much can I endure?" and start asking, "How frequently do I release?" Emptying the tank requires you to manually open a purge valve. You have to take deliberate physical or psychological action to move the stress out of your body. An exhausting session at the gym, aggressively writing down your frustrations, and physically trashing the paper, or enforcing rigid personal boundaries. The aftermath of a successful purge is profound. Shedding those dense layers of stress allows your internal structure to rapidly return to complete lightness. Reclaiming that lightness instantly restores your cognitive baseline. Your problem-solving speed recovers, and your creative capacity comes back online. This cycle of absorption and release is not a one-time emergency procedure you do on vacation. It is a mandatory, continuous maintenance protocol. Real mental agility and long-term survival do not come from building an unbreakable outer shell. They come from mastering the daily routine of throwing away the heavy burdens you were never meant to carry.